The liberation of the Procyons from the Orion Group. The liberation of the Procyons from the Orion Group. From an article on www.truthcontrol.com. By Chris. Published March 25, 2012. Procyons. Apparently Rigel was initially inhabited by Lyran human races of blondes. During the Orion Wars, however, Rigel was taken over by the forces of the Draconian and Orion empires, and even became one of their main bases. Nowadays, Rigel is controlled by the Greys and Reptilians. The Lyran Nordics decided to evacuate their worlds in the Rigel star system, when it became clear to them that they were about to lose the fight against the Draconian Orion empires. They fled to Procyon, where they already had established a large colony. Most of the Lyrans who fled the Rigel star system after the Draconian/Orion empires had attacked Lyran colonies in Rigel traveled to the star system of Procyon to restart their civilization. Procyon is a binary star system about 11,4 light-years from Earth, and it was apparently the fourth planet in this system that the Lyrans established their new colony. There is a human species from Procyon that has had a hand in the genetic development of humans and were involved with the initial interbreeding with primitive humans. Thus the sudden emergence of Cro-Magnon human, and they were one of the 22 ET races that colonized the Earth. Procyon basic purpose, the law of one is service to others. They feel that all that is will benefit if man can develop as a true social memory complex, that is, an aligned mass consciousness or integrated biospheric entity. To them, 5 billion beings integrated as one awareness of awareness unit in creation is a natural state. Each separate entity still maintains the individual unique nature, which is the sum total of its integrated experiences, its basic differentiated identity as a spiritual entity aware of its immortality despite the use of an organic genetic entity, body. Their aim is to help us to help ourselves by bringing humans to their full potential. Failing goal number 3 above, they will reap the smaller harvest of human souls and relocate them for advanced schooling elsewhere or elsewhere in the event of a natural disaster. Procyons have been nicknamed Swedes and are on the average between 6 and 6.5 feet tall. They are from the fourth planet in orbit around the Procyon double star system. These Procyons are muscular with slender necks and agile bodies. Their eyes are alert and of high intelligence. Physically they are almost identical to humans. The main difference is that by human standards their blood circulatory system is underdeveloped, while their lymphatic system is overdeveloped. This gives them stronger immune systems than terrestrial humans. Some Procyon blondes have high intellectual and verbal abilities, while others are mute and telepathic. The Procyons with speech abilities will respond violently if attacked or threatened. But, the telepathic type will not. Both types are careful to avoid exposure, and usually encounter humans in quite isolated places. They contact females more frequently. They may just stare and observe humans, then retreat. The Procyons do not seem to age, and consistently appear to be from 27 to 35 human years old, no matter what their real age may be. The tall blondes from Procyon have a benign attitude toward humanity, except for their strong disapproval of our inhumanity to each other. This strong disapproval is further intensified by the fact that our government has made a secret alliance with their hereditary enemies, the Greys and the Orions, in order to obtain even more destructive weapon systems than those that were already in existence. Our government is not interested in negotiating with the Procyons, as they would not provide us with weapon systems. The Lyran colony of Procyon flourished until it became embroiled in sinister effort by the Greys that now populated Rigel to subvert Procyon. Kyla, a Procyonian, looked like a tall handsome human, slender but muscular, masculine yet ethereal. He appeared either naturally or artificially to have black around his eyes, almost like coal. His face was close to exquisite, but definitely masculine. He had a gaunt face with high cheekbones and piercing cobalt blue eyes. He had fine blonde hair that was almost shoulder length. He had a muscular neck. His skin was pale flesh color, with a whitish overtone. It is hard to gauge his exact height because of the circumstances under which our encounter occurred, but it was somewhere between 6 and 7 feet. Kyla described the process adopted by the Greys in their subversion of Procyon. The Greys began to visit us, first a few as ambassadors, then as specialists in various domains where their expertise could be useful to us, as participants in different programs that involved mutual collaboration, and finally as tourists. What had begun as a trickle became a flood, as they came in ever-increasing numbers, slowly but surely infiltrating our society at all levels, penetrating even the most secret of our elite power groups. Just as on your planet they began by unobtrusively gaining control over key members of the CIA and KGB through techniques unknown to them, such as telepathic hypnosis that manipulates the reptilian levels of the brain, so on Procyon through the same techniques. They established a kind of telepathic hypnotic control over our leaders. Over our leaders and over almost all of us, because it was as if we were under a spell that was leading us to our doom, as if we were being programmed by a type of ritual black magic that we did not realize existed. Kyla went on to describe the eventual takeover of Procyon by the Greys and the enslavement of most Procyons that did not escape. Using advanced time travel technology which involved multidimensional consciousness, something which the Greys apparently could not duplicate due to their degraded genetic bodies, a significant number of Procyons were able to escape and began a liberation war from the remote quarters of time. Significantly, the Procyons describe how some of their resistance techniques would be relevant to the situation on Earth. It would be suicidal to attempt to fight the Greys directly with the weapons now at your disposal. One must be rational in attempting to fight back, and understand the proper way to proceed. Your own consciousness is the most potent weapon that is available to you at the present time. The most effective way to fight the Greys is to change the level of your consciousness from linear thinking to multidimensional awareness. They have the technology to throw your planet out of orbit, but there is one key ability that you have and they do not have. The ability to hold in mind imagery that inspires an individual to realize his or her direct personal connection to the source of all that is. That is your key to victory. According to Alex Collier, the Procyons have recently liberated their world from Greys and Orion group influence, and he describes the Procyons as currently gung-ho when it comes to dealing with the Greys and Orions. Around the star system of Procyon there are planets occupied by 23 billion human beings in 5 solar systems. And Procyon is rich in mineral deposits. The Procyons have the ability to travel within time frames and density levels, as well as in between. Rigelian entities lack this capability. They depend on beamcraft for interstellar travel. Procyons, astrally, travel from location to location, perception to perception, as a natural function. The Procyon craft are constructed in one piece that is fabricated within an energy matrix and solidified as an aware living crystal that is perfectly tuned to the pilot via computer link. The craft itself has a limited awareness level, as would a thought form entity or mock-up. When the beamship contains 3 or more crew members who are the same density as the craft, then a teleportation sequence is possible. The name of the home planet of the Procyons translates roughly as those who travel through time. All cultures go through states of higher technological development prior to learning that everything they have accomplished can be achieved by way of pure thought. In conclusion, the Procyons' main activity is ineffectively resisting the extraterrestrial subversion by developing a multidimensional consciousness, using mind imagery to protect oneself from extraterrestrial mind control, monitoring unfriendly extraterrestrial activity. The global solutions that the Procyons can assist in include exposing extraterrestrial subversion, helping end global secrecy of the extraterrestrial presence, promoting multidimensional consciousness, deprogramming mind control, promoting universal human rights. The Procyons are approximately 600 years more advanced than we are technologically. In that 600 years I include what the government, the secret government for a lack of better words, multinational corporations, the secret technology, reverse engineered technology that has been hidden from us. Here is a race that is 600 years more advanced than us. They were subverted the exact same way we are being subverted. TV, radio, the media, government, belief systems that absolutely were not real. They changed definitions and meanings of words that it meant one thing when I was a kid to something else that is completely opposite to my children. This causes more conflict and confusion. They did everything they could to make sure that the people who were righteous and moral were considered square and old-fashioned. To be decadent was then in fashion. I could go on, but you were intelligent and know what I mean. It took approximately 100 years to literally change enough generations that they couldn't remember what their ancestors stood for. Does any of this sound familiar? The New Jersey 5th grade textbooks talks about the forming of the United States. They have taken out all references to George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, not even mentioned. It is interesting that you can even go to that subject information and not mention those two. But, they managed to do it. The Procyons were suppressed. All thought was monitored with the use of technology, what we would know as satellites today. They implanted and branded every person on their planet they could find with a mark. The censorship of thought is literally what occurred. The entire civilization of that star system began to die. Its spirit was slowly being suppressed because their age limit was about 100 years of age, about 30 to 35 years more than the average here. The Yeti races that were there lived an average of 2,000 years of age. It was nothing to do a short tour of duty managing this solar system and this particular people, this race. They did this, controlling the planet. They took away all space travel because of its lack of natural resources. At that time they were using fuel, not petroleum, but something else that was flammable in the spacecraft. The planet ran out of most of their natural resources. So now, nobody had any way to get off their planet. They were then managed from moons in Procyon's star system. Are you following me? Now, they have control of the high ground, so to speak. The Orion group is made up of 18 different star systems in the Orion constellation. The Orions are managing this particular star system. What happened was that a group of women got together and formed a women's circle. This planet is called Avika without the negative connotation. In the women's circle, they got together, they talked, they prayed, and they meditated. They found out that whenever they got together in a circle they could make things happen. They could make things manifest. They could create opportunity. They would slowly bring in more women. They would start raising their daughters that way. They learned to hide the children from the system and raise them in this idea that they could in fact create and manipulate physicality with their minds, and it spread. It took approximately 134 years. That is how long it took to undo what had been done to them, 2 whole generations. Here on Earth it would be 3 or 4 generations. What they did was to start to teach some of the old ways. Many of the women became mediums. They began to tap into other consciousnesses that were sending information that had been there all along, but nobody was listening because they were too busy. Too busy buying more toys, more cars, more DVDs, etc. I am using that as an example. I don't know what they really had. But they were so focused on some external stimulus that they forgot about the inside. That was their downfall. They did not balance the two. We are exactly in that same place. We are not balancing the inside and the outside. We are not balanced on the inside and the outside, not at all. I'm not always either. The Procyons grew. The women formed circles all over their worlds. Their participating star systems connected with others through the use of these mediums, never doubting the information they were getting. I can't tell you any more about that because I don't know. Literally what happened was that they created the 10% shift in consciousness. The men, who were the most oppressed, the most controlled, the most beaten down, the most emotionally shut down because they had to be constantly in the warrior space to survive and take care of their families. The men lost their compassion, their sensitivity, and their intuitiveness. The men were virtually useless. It was very easy to push their buttons. When that happened you automatically get a response, a violent response. This as opposed to taking a step back and saying, "Whoa, I am being manipulated. What am I doing?" That wasn't happening. It was the women who had the nerve, the guts, the strength, and the courage to step out of the bullshit and take a look around and said that we need to do something anyway. In a 134 years what happened was that they began to rebel. They became more intuitive. Men became more compassionate about their families. What happened was that they found soul. The entire star system of Procyon became one group soul again. Everybody was automatically on the same page. It wasn't about Joe, the next door neighbor. It wasn't about Lee across the street. It was about everybody getting the yoke of tyranny off their necks. It all came together in everything they did with the one goal in mind. To this day, the leaders of those worlds are women. The men have a role. They're still men. They have not been stripped of their manhood or anything like that. The truth is that the women made the most logic. They make the most common sense. They are the ones that have the babies. They know guys. We'll never know that part. How precious life is and was. Will that work on Earth? I don't know. The Procyons at that point, once they started to rebel, their consciousness was projected out into space. The handlers were absolutely not prepared for that much of a unification of energy. They absolutely were not prepared for it. They were only trained to take it apart and it wasn't working anymore. The Orion group was only trained to take it apart. Once it was apart, man had changed. The truth is, once the people decided that is enough, they pulled their energies together. They became one huge community within the star system. The Orions were absolutely not prepared for it. What happened then was that the Procyons called for help. The Pleiadians from Tegeta and a group of Muth people from Alpha Centauri showed up and helped them. I want you to know that there are at least 3 motherships in our solar system that are from Procyon. They volunteered. They know all about this group. They have been doing this for thousands and thousands of years. We are not the only star system that they have tweaked. Taking all that into consideration, the first goal is the issue. The issue is that we are not a community here. We have been taken apart. Does that mean that we have to see eye to eye on everything? No, not because we won't. But there is a thing about mutual respect. There is the idea that this is a small planet. It is our home. We only have so much water. We only have so much natural resources. Who controls it? Does it benefit everyone? You already know the answer to that. It is all about control, and you have no say-so about any of this whatsoever. There is an old song by Bob Dylan. I don't remember the name of it, but I do remember this line. In order to be honest, you have to step outside the law. That is kind of what it feels like. It still amazes me that people think that we are the only ones in a galaxy. There can't possibly be other life out there. What is even more baffling to me is that they can look at the world the way it is going and think that we have this great future coming, this marvelous future coming. We are running out of air, water, the polar caps are melting. All the governments are corrupt. Politicians are corrupt, and they still think this is it. This is awesome. I can't believe they still have more babies.